Right now,
Today
50.
we'll tackle tough times in
The
California.
economic troubles facing San Diego will be the focus of Mayor Jerry Sanders' annual State of the City
reports
address.
a 60% hike in rapes where either one or both people
will be a long process. UCLA researchers track the progress of 50 sarcoma patients using a
From the KPBS studios, this is San Diego Week.
Hello, I'm Dwayne Brown. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, we'll discuss why home foreclosures continue to outpace loan modifications in San Diego and California. Grocery workers at Vons, Ralph's, and Albertsons may be closer to walking off the job. The former mayor of Tijuana says he's too rich to be corrupt, why he's now facing federal weapons charges. Some San Diego high school students are cultivating healthier food choices and learning about different cultures. We'll also show you how a community project is teaching kids the art of storytelling. That's coming up on San Diego Week, but first, the headlines. Amitha Sharma joins me from the KPBS News Center with the week's top stories. Amitha?
Well, Dwayne, excitement is building for local political watchers. The field of big-name contenders to replace San Diego Mayor Jerry Sanders is filling up, even though the primary is 1 year away. Democratic Congressman Bob Filner announced his candidacy this week. He joins 3 Republican contenders for the job: District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, Councilman Carl DeMaio, and State Assemblyman Nathan Fletcher. California is running out of time in meeting the first court deadline for reducing its prison population. A federal court has ordered the state to cut its prison population by 30,000 because of overcrowding. But a plan to pay counties to keep low-level offenders in jails instead of state prisons depends on an extension of taxes that are due to expire, and lawmakers still have not reached a deal on that extension. Prison officials say they must act now.
We really are, we're out of time and we're out of room. And so we've got to get this done. If it doesn't happen, if 109 is not funded and if 109 is not implemented, then we're in trouble. And I don't see any other way to get there.
The court has the power to order the release of inmates if the state can't come up with a plan. Some safe seats will flip to the opposite party. Some veteran state and federal lawmakers will lose their jobs. The political makeup of California's legislature and the state's congressional delegation may drastically change. This is all likely to happen as a panel of 14 citizens, instead of party bosses, redraws California's voting districts. Maps of the new districts released today raise many questions but answer few. The impact of redistricting will play out in next year's elections. KPBS will follow this political sea change as it takes place. For a look at the redistricting maps, go to kpbs.org. Pets caught in house fires will now be able to breathe easier. San Diego firefighters today received nearly a dozen pet oxygen masks through a donation. The cone-shaped masks could save thousands of pets. Only half of the city's fire stations have the masks. And it's that time of the year again. The San Diego County Fair opened today. Among the items on the new food menu are deep-fried Kool-Aid, deep-fried brownies, and deep-fried Girl Scout cookies. For a comprehensive look at today's news, visit our website at kpbs.org.
A bill to help families struggling to avoid foreclosure was voted down in the California Senate last month. Some are questioning why a San Diego lawmaker opposed it. Home foreclosure rates continue to decline in San Diego County, but many folks are struggling to modify their loans. Kelly Davis with San Diego CityBeat joins us to provide some perspective on this housing story. Kelly, I know you wrote homeowners are having to jump through a whole lot of hoops these days to modify their loans. What types of programs are available here in California to help those facing foreclosure?
Well, there was federal level legislation to create some programs that would, one in particular that tried to incentivize banks to work with homeowners to modify their loans. But in working on this story, what I heard from folks is that that program is not as effective as they hoped it would be, and there's nothing that compels banks to work with a homeowner on a loan modification. So aside from that, there's not a whole lot available to help someone who's really struggling and kind of caught in the glut of paperwork, you know, that tends to pile up in these sorts of situations.
And trying to get a loan modification, I've heard the description of right hand in terms of banks don't know what the left hand is doing. What is this thing about dual track? What does that mean? And
actually that was a quote from a woman I interviewed for my story who just phone call after phone call, paperwork, you know, just trying to deal with banks, and it seems like nobody's really following her case closely. And she's on what is come to be referred to as a dual track, in that she is pursuing a loan modification while the bank is pursuing a foreclosure against her. So it's almost this race, and she's been able to stave off 2 foreclosures so far this year. There's one scheduled for July, so she's hoping to work out a loan modification before that happens, or you know, she might have to hire an attorney, you know, which costs money. So yeah, that's the dual track.
What was so controversial about the California Senate bill that failed last month?
You know, everyone I've talked to who supported the bill, and some experts I talked to, they all described this, you know, the word that kept coming up was, this is common sense legislation. All it would have required a bank to do is give a homeowner a yes or no answer on a loan modification before moving ahead with the foreclosure process. But it failed in Senate Banking and Finance Committee, didn't even get out of that first step. And there were a lot of questions why. The vote was split 3-3, pretty much down party lines. 3 Democrats supported the bill. 2 Republicans opposed it, and then the third no vote was Senator Juan Vargas, who represents South Bay, Imperial County, and this bill's supporters really hoped they would have had Vargas's vote, but he voted against it.
And he represents a district that has seen lots of foreclosures. He's taking a lot of heat, I take it now?
Yeah, and you know, and it's I tried to get an interview with him and wasn't successful, and I noticed there had been an LA Times story prior to the vote on the bill. They couldn't get, you know, any comment from him, but you know, what he seemed to say in the committee, what I've heard from folks who were there, is that you know, that there are reforms being made on the federal level. There's some other action going on with state attorneys general. And things will work out. You know, this bill will just kind of get in the way. But again, you know, this was legislation that would not compel the banks to approve a loan modification. Just give that yes or no answer.
Okay, thank you so much, Kelly. Baggers, checkers, and butchers at San Diego's 3 largest grocery chains may soon be walking the picket line. Their union contracts expired in March, and talks with Vons, Ralphs, and Albertsons have yet to produce a deal. KPBS business reporter Eric Anderson joins me with an update. Well, Eric, we've heard very little since the contract or the union basically approved a strike a few months ago. What happened this week?
Well, this week what happened was a large umbrella organization, a union that represents, union council that represents about 30 unions in the county, 192,000 or so people, decided to, in essence, offer their support to the grocery workers. There's about 10,000 grocery workers. They've been working without a contract since March. They took a strike vote in April. And now they're just kind of trying to get some attention again, I think, by having the Labor Council, as we're going to hear from Lorena Gonzalez, sanction their strike if one does happen down the road.
What it means is that the unions are agreeing not to cross the picket line, where their contracts allow to not do deliveries, to respect the process, and to fully support those workers if they go on strike. And so at this point, if negotiations completely break down, the union at a notice could call for a strike. 192,000 workers in San Diego County, we would hope and expect would respect that picket line, both at work and at home, for their shopping needs, as well as those who can, provided their contract contract not cross the picket line for the delivery of goods and services.
And of course, what they do by that is they really expand the impact. Instead of just having 10,000 workers on the picket lines, they have all these additional workers who are offering their support.
So what are the grocery chains saying at this point?
Well, what the grocery chains are saying at this point is that it's a little bit premature to be talking about a strike because contract talks are still going on. One of the big sticking points is health care. The union says they're trying to shift health care costs over to them. And the stores are saying very simply, look, we're trying to offer a competitive package. We're going to make available to the workers excellent health care packages. And these are the details we're trying to work out in an environment that is increasingly competitive.
And also, to not mention the sluggish economy, the issue of jobs. What's at stake for both sides here?
Well, I think it's a pretty high-stakes game, actually, for both sides, for both the stores and the workers. First, for the stores, back in 2003, when they had that brutal 5-month-long strike when the grocery workers were off, the stores really got punished. They lost about $2 billion worth of business. They used to control about 40% of the market. That's now down to about 33%. So they lost customers and they lost money. The workers, on the other hand, were out on strike for 5 months. Very long time, and in the end they settled for very much what the grocery store was asking for before the strike, so they didn't really come out on top either. They ended up with a 2-tier contract. Newer workers got less pay, and the benefits weren't as good as the existing workers. And the way workers turn over in the grocery industry, what that means is most of the workers now are working under the terms of that agreed upon contract.
So the grocers in the last strike really came out ahead. Not so much for the new hirees, right?
I think if you look at the long run, it was a win for the grocery chains, but they took a loss there too.
And what about the customers for Vons, Ralph's, and Albertsons?
Well, the customers are the ones who felt, the pressure of this strike when it lasted. 5 months is a very long time, and it's a highly visible strike because everybody shops for groceries. And the customers are the ones who really, I think, kind of suffered as much as those two sides did during that labor walkout. And they're going to be the ones who feel it if there is a walkout this time. They're going to know. There will be a 72-hour notice before the union goes to a picket line. So you're going to have like 3 or 4 days. But then they're going to have to decide what they're going to do. There are other options. As I said, the grocery chains that we talked about, the biggest ones in the county, Ralph's, Vons, and Albertsons. But there are options. You can go to Stater Brothers, Keel stores, Rite Aid is a union shop. In fact, the union is Costco. The union has actually got a list of stores where they'd like you to go so that you can still support union workers by going to stores that have a union workforce.
All right, so we do have at least the knowledge that we'll have a 3-day notice if there is a strike.
We'll at least have a 3-day notice. One thing we don't know, however, is when the next round of talks are going to happen. Both sides have been working with a federal mediator since the beginning of May, and they haven't put any restrictions on what they can talk about publicly, so we found out what the sticking point was in the contract, but they have put restrictions on when people are allowed to talk about when they're going to be talking about the contract.
All right, thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
You may have heard the former mayor of Tijuana was recently arrested on federal weapons charges. Prosecutors in Mexico say agents seized several dozen illegal firearms and munitions from his home in Tijuana. San Diego Union Tribune reporter Sandra Dibble has been following the story and joins us to talk about it.
Dwayne.
Hi, Sandra. Jorge Hank Ron, one of the wealthiest men in Mexico, also very politically connected. Tell us, what exactly did agents find at his estate in Tijuana?
They found early Saturday morning 88 firearms. They found 70 ammunition clips, 10,000 rounds of ammunition, and a gas grenade. Now, of those 78, I believe 78 of the weapons were allegedly unregistered, and 49 of them were only for the use of the military, so they're high caliber.
Wow. Now, was he on someone's hit list? Why would he have such a large stash of weapons?
Well, he denies he does not recognize the weapons. He sort of implies that they were planted there. So he's saying he does not have the stash of weapons. His wife, Maria Elvia, has said that any weapons found on the property would have belonged to bodyguards.
Yeah, 10 of them were also taken into custody, right?
They weren't all his bodyguards, but 10 other people were taken into custody.
Do you think politics had anything to do with his arrest?
Well, it's being interpreted that way, especially by Hank supporters, that this was just this maneuver by President Felipe Calderón's administration to discredit Hank's party, which is the Institutional Revolutionary Party, at a very critical time. The government vehemently denies this, and others will say that, look, the government is finally going after people who've had all this impunity, and no matter how much money or power you have, you still have to obey the law. You said a critical time. What do you mean? Next year, in 2012, Mexico is having presidential elections. And so everything that happens in Mexico has a very political interpretation, whether or not that's true or not. What did Hank Roan have to say at his arraignment this week? Well, you know, it's not like in the U.S. The press was not allowed inside, but he did have a note that he gave to a human rights official saying that there was never any search warrant, and that these weapons, he never even recognized them, and they weren't his. I thought it was interesting. I read a quote where he said, "I'm too rich to be corrupt." Oh, well, that's interesting. This is what that was his line during his campaign. He's the former mayor of Tijuana, and from 2004 to 2007 was mayor. And it was also what he used in his gubernatorial campaign, saying, you know, elect me because I will not steal. I don't need to steal. Now, Mexico does, of course, have very strict gun laws, and Hank Roan has faced or been accused of criminal activity in the past. Do you think this evidence is enough to convict him this time around? Well, his attorneys say definitely not, and they've brought they 8 separate sets of evidence to show that this is not so, and including he has surveillance videos that he had from outside his property that they're showing in court. He has not even been he's been charged, but he is not close to being convicted. The judge at the latest Tuesday morning will have to decide whether to hold him for charges or to free him. Oh, we'll keep our eye on this story. Thank you, Sandra. Okay, thank you. San Diego's Crawford High School in City Heights is among the most culturally diverse schools in the nation. An innovative school garden program gives students a chance to discuss their culture through food. In this story, Brian Myers with the Media Arts Center San Diego introduces us to 3 students learning to compost and grow their own food.
Our program is an internship program where we pay students to work in the garden, and while they're working, they're learning about gardening, about what it means to grow your own food, what it means to access land, to start a community garden, and how to eat healthy.
My name is Perla Hernandez. I'm a senior at Crawford, and I'm part of the garden where I learned how to compost.
My name is Etienne. I'm from East Africa, but I was born in countries like Central Africa, which is Burundi, but I grew up, I live a long time in a camp, was in Tanzania.
I would describe composting as recycle materials to create healthier soils for healthier plants.
The first I run a compost, but was like when I saw my mom used to do a compost. She used to do a compost to get in soil to go use them for growing vegetables.
I enjoy composting because it's fun to me and fascinating, and I like learning new things about it. Before I joined the garden, I had no idea anything about compost, but now I know what you do to it, how you turn it, what you add to it, and why it's so good to make your own compost that's nutritious and organic. It helps your plants grow better.
We're serving about 1,300 kids a day for lunch, and about 600 come through the lines here, and we have a salad bar on each line. And at the end of the day, we take everything that's left over and we put it into a compost can.
So we bring it back here to the garden and we work on it.
So this top layer is mostly made of greens, which is fruits and vegetables. We also add browns, and this is mostly carbon. And we need a nice even layer so that it can break down easier.
When you have a garden, you grow your own food, and then you can sell, and then you buy your own.
The students are really excited to take what they've learned in the garden home with them. And a lot of students have been able to take plants home to grow on their own, and they've used the compost that we've created soil out of to grow those plants at home. So it's really cool to see and kind of come full circle.
It is important because it helps our environment a lot, and we recycle many materials on our campus, so which is good because there are less trash can in our landfills. So I encourage every school to do it too.
That video comes to us from Brian Myers, a producer for the Media Arts Center of San Diego. KPBS is a partner in a new project called Speak City Heights. We'll be bringing you more stories like this, sharing the voices of people in one of San Diego's most diverse neighborhoods. You can see more stories in our collaboration anytime on the web at speakcityheights.org. Tomorrow, the Media Arts Center San Diego will host a screening of documentary work from its Teen Producers Project. KPBS film critic Beth Accomando says students are taking a fresh perspective on issues important to their community.
On the same block as a pawn shop and liquor store near 30th and El Cajon, you'll find the new offices of the Media Arts Center San Diego.
Part of our mission is to be a part of social change and community development. We want to use media to help in community development. So we knew we wanted to go into community, an area that needs revitalization, that needs community development.
The choice of area, I think, really was to put ourselves in the community and among the people that we want to work with and the people that we want to tell stories about.
So we wanted to be right on the street. We want people to see inside and come in and to use the technology that we're offering.
One of the programs being offered is the Teen Producers Project, which brings media resources to youths in underserved communities.
When we started the Teen Producers Project, we definitely had a goal of trying not to just replicate what we see in mass media.
People's image of undocumented people or illegal immigration is often very different than the reality. So what we're really trying to do is bridge that difference and bridge that divide and show that there's a lot more gray area in these issues than there is black and white.
Well, basically the main subject of the documentary we're making is about the DREAM Act and illegal immigrants coming in and their children being unable to really be involved in society by getting their driver's license and going to college and getting a profession, and just interviewing people about their positions on the DREAM Act and talking about kind of the whole idea of how it affects kids.
I remember in 7th grade I applied for a scholarship and I wasn't able to get it because I didn't have a social security number.
Jody Silly oversees the students who range in age from 12 to 18. She teaches them about video editing programs like Final Cut Pro and guides them through the production process.
They come up with the questions, they conduct the interviews, they do all the production, they set up all the lights, and then once we're done, they edit all the interviews down, they add in the B-roll, and complete the process.
Right now I am checking in my Vimeo account because I uploaded a proof one of our interviewees onto Vimeo to get people's feedback on it. So I was checking to see if there were any comments on that video posted.
I have footage of a man named Christian Ramirez. He is like an activist on the DREAM Act.
Let's give an opportunity to our young men and women to remain in this country.
So when I went to this footage, he was very passionate about it and very into it. It inspired me.
By working on these videos, Timony says she's learning technical skills as well as developing critical awareness about the media.
You can really take the different shots and cut them together in a way to kind of give a totally different emotion or feeling to certain shots. You can really, with the music and the transitions and the effects and where you put in certain things, it can really change the mood of it a lot.
That's the goal of the program, to get students to think about what they see, to ask questions about the accuracy of those images, and then come up with images of their own.
Like, what did I do wrong? Like, why do I not deserve to, go where, I want to go?
San Diego teen Melissa Shega is excited about sharing the DREAM Act documentaries with a larger audience this Saturday.
I think it's really good. I think it will definitely put it in a different perspective, what people think, and hopefully inform some people about the DREAM Act.
The DREAM Act says we all have to dream, not just the students who have a dream, not just the American dream that says these students should be able to go to college. But we're all trying to dream, I think, of a better society. And this is just one step. It's a small step, but it's one that we thought could get a lot of support.
I feel like really connected with the DREAM Act now, so hopefully it'll pass.
KPBS's Beth Accomando reporting. There will be a free screening of the youth-produced videos tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. at the new Media Arts Center San Diego at 30th and El Cajon Boulevard. And now here's Amita Sharma with an update on what we're working on for next week.
Coming up on KPBS next week, a Somali refugee is this year's valedictorian at Crawford High School. And on Midday Edition, we'll speak to the man behind the Surfing Madonna mosaic, which is causing controversy in Encinitas.
Thanks, Amitha. All of the stories you saw tonight can be viewed on our website at kpbs.org/San Diego Week. We leave you with a look at your weekend weather forecast. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you on the radio.